People with expired non-disclosure agreements, what's the juicy info you can now tell us? Tiger Direct was once a pretty successful computer hardware store in North America. There was a whole shitstorm of reasons why their brick-and-mortar stores collapsed quite quickly. Some of that information is public. However, I know they were being sued for shamelessly trying to force their clients to buy an antivirus software that was in fact just a well-dressed virus. It dramatically impacted system performance, it didn't really do anything more than Defender, it was alarmingly expensive and ultimately didn't actually work without paying a ton of additional fees. More worryingly, once your credit card information was recorded, it continued to charge you even if you cancelled the subscription, and your fees were astronomically higher after a few months. And it was notoriously a problem to remove. Calling their helpline for help only resulted in their agents refusing to help you unless you gave them your credit card info and more money. So, want to use the software? Gonna be more money. Want help using the software? More money. Want to stop using the software? More money. Already giving them money. More money it is then. Employees who questioned this software were terminated. They were forced to sell it and fired if they did not sell a substantial amount. It went so far that the stores stopped carrying any other antivirus just to prevent sales of anything but. Couple this with illegal firing practices, with the company considering reselling computers abandoned at their tech bench back to new people, some employment violations. And that's just the stuff I know about. There's more, but I wasn't privy to it all. They like to cite the decline of brick-and-mortar stores and the success of their online store, but I haven't seen any other brick-and-mortar stores for competition closing, actually the opposite. And focusing all your eggs on the "let's compete with Newegg" basket doesn't seem wise either. I am almost certain their collapse was due to overwhelming lawsuits and/or an attempt to avoid more by almost dissolving, but like I said, I know only of the lawsuits and violations that happened in my district, not necessarily the whole chain. That the charter school I taught for was in reality a Scientologist school. We had to do training in Scientology after school for 2 hours a day. We had to sign a NDA to get our $1,000 bonus for doing the non-elective training. Those parents had no idea the school was Scientology. We did not teach them how to be Scientologists, but we certainly used the terminology and Ron's ideas. This was about 25 years ago, before we knew much about Scientology. I didn't buy in and I wasn't invited back the following year. The school dissolved about 4 years later. I applied for a job and they sent me that L. Ron Hubbard Scientology personality test before even offering an interview. Couldn't tell if it was a joke, but I filled it out anyway and I was never called for an interview. The job was for making clay tiles at a small studio. They post job openings pretty frequently though. One of the more bizarre experiences I've had. Edit. This got popular so I went back in my email to revisit my job application. The test was called MasterTech Personnel Potential Analysis Test, seemingly innocuous to me, but the fine print on the bottom attributes it to L. Ron Hubbard Library 2001. I noticed this when looking it over because the questions were really creepy and weird for a job where I'd be making ceramic tiles. Further in the comments here, I discovered from a fellow Minnesotan that the studio is most certainly owned by a Scientologist. I'm considering reporting them to the job board I found the application on, as they still post openings there. Also creepy, as another comment was about Scientologists targeting artists. In my cover letter I emphasized I was a working artist looking for a flexible job and this one fit the bill. I went on about how much of a good fit it would be for both me and the employer, and they responded with the aforementioned test attached to the email. The final email from the employer stated they already had many other great prospects, which in most cases wouldn't be an odd thing to say, but in this case it makes me want to vomit. What the actual hell? My wife was born in Vietnam. Her mother met and married a Navy officer, and he adopted my wife and her sister, and got them all out of Vietnam in 1972, saving their lives. The majority of my mother-in-law's family were well-off business people, and were ethnically Chinese, and were executed by the communists. My wife's dad passed away long ago, and my wife never did learn very much about his time in the Navy. All she could tell me was he was involved with submarines. 3 years ago we visited my wife's mom in Hawaii, and she gave us a trove of stuff, pictures and papers she thought were related to his Navy career. The first thing I find is his service record. Holy shit, my wife's dad was a badass. Joined the Navy in 1940, was chief mechanic on submarines during World War II, earns 3 battle stars. Then all kinds of work on advanced submarines, then later in his career some really weird assignments, like hauling stuff up to Alaska for defense radar sites, or decommissioning ships that were used in nuclear bomb tests. It took a couple of weeks, but one day I noticed that his naval career ended in 1960, but my wife said he was a naval commander when he met my wife's mother. I asked my wife about this, and she was a bit confused. I asked what his uniform was like, and she says khaki pants, white shirt. I tell her that it doesn't sound like he was in the Navy and she must be mistaken. Then she tells me this beauty. No, he had to be in the Navy, because he went somewhere in a submarine and came back with crabs. I had to translate the argument between him and my mom. I'm really confused now, so I look at some other paperwork we had from the trove. There was a folder that contained some certificates from a Chicago-based air conditioning repair program, plus a certificate for electrical work, dated 1961. Then the real answer revealed itself. It was his employment documentation for USAID. Turns out my wife's adoptive father was CIA station chief in Saigon during the Vietnam War, and she never knew. Her dad never revealed anything. Edit. I no longer think he was station chief, just CIA who had people reporting to him. Thank you for watching the video. If you're new, please be sure to subscribe, like and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Post your own stories in the comments down below.